You step through the double doors of a massive Walmart on a Sunday afternoon, or find yourself trapped in the chaotic center of a Times Square pedestrian plaza. The air immediately feels thicker. The noise isn't just loud, it's a physical weight pressing against your chest. A blur of movement, overlapping conversations, the glaring fluorescent lights bouncing off polished floors, and the sudden overwhelming sensation that there is nowhere to simply be. To most people, a crowded space like a packed Coachella music festival, a bustling tailgate party, or a downtown Manhattan subway car during rush hour is energizing. It's where the action is. It's the pulse of the city. But for you, it's an absolute assault on the senses. You don't hate people. You aren't necessarily shy. You might even love deep one-on-one conversations in a quiet coffee shop. Yet, put you in a room with 200 people or force you to navigate the chaotic aisles of a Costco on a Saturday, and your brain immediately starts plotting the fastest route to the nearest exit. Society often misunderstands this reaction. People call you antisocial. They tell you to loosen up or ask why you're being so quiet at the family Thanksgiving dinner. They assume you're anxious or judging them, but what if your aversion to crowds has nothing to do with hating socialization? What if it's actually rooted in the fundamental way your nervous system processes reality? Welcome to the psychology of people who hate crowded places. Let's start by dismantling the biggest myth, the idea that disliking crowds is a character flaw or a sign of weakness. For decades, extroversion has been the cultural ideal, especially in Western societies. We idolize the life of the party, the person who can work a room of strangers, the one who thrives in the chaotic energy of a packed stadium. If you shrink away from that chaos, the assumption is that something is wrong with you. But neuroscience tells a completely different story. At the core of this experience is a mechanism in your brain called the reticular activating system, or RAS. Think of the RAS as a bouncer at the door of a highly exclusive club. Its job is to filter the millions of bits of sensory information bombarding you every second and decide what actually gets into your conscious awareness. For the average person, the RAS is highly efficient at blocking out background noise. They can stand in a crowded mall, completely ignore the holiday music blaring from the speakers, the conversations happening 5 feet away, and the hundreds of visual stimuli passing their field of vision, and just focus on their phone screen. But if you hate crowds, there is a very high probability that you are a highly sensitive person, or HSP. And if you are an HSP, your RAS works differently. The bouncer at your club is terrible at his job. He lets absolutely everything in. When you walk into a crowded room, your brain doesn't just see a crowd. It sees hundreds of individual faces. It reads micro-expressions. It registers the subtle shift in tone of the conversation behind you. It notices the flashing neon sign outside the window. It feels the heavy bass of the music vibrating through the floorboards. Your nervous system is processing an exponentially higher volume of data than the person standing next to you. No wonder you're completely exhausted. You aren't being antisocial. Your biological CPU is running at 100% capacity just to keep you upright in that environment. It is the textbook definition of sensory overload. This brings us to the profound biological cost of crowds. Evolutionarily speaking, humans are tribal creatures. We survived by sticking together, but we evolved to live in tribes of maybe 50 to 150 people we knew intimately. We did not evolve to be crammed into a steel tube underground with 300 strangers, or to navigate a Black Friday mob at a big box retail store fighting over discounted electronics. When you are surrounded by a massive crowd of unpredictable strangers, a primitive part of your brain, the amygdala, often perceives it as a subtle but persistent threat. You are physically trapped. Your autonomy is restricted. You cannot predict the movements, moods, or intentions of the people pressing in on you. For those who are highly observant, this triggers a low-grade fight-or-flight response. Your cortisol levels begin to rise. Your heart rate elevates slightly. Your breathing becomes shallower. You might not have a full-blown panic attack, but your body is vibrating with a quiet, persistent tension. You are existing in a state of hypervigilance. This hypervigilance is incredibly draining. It's exactly why you can spend 2 hours at a crowded networking event and feel like you've just run a marathon. The physical fatigue is entirely real because your brain has been burning massive amounts of glucose trying to process and predict a fundamentally unpredictable environment. Then there is the complex issue of emotional contagion. People who dislike crowds are often highly empathetic. They don't just observe the emotions of others, they absorb them like a sponge. In a quiet, intimate setting with one close friend, this is a beautiful gift. It makes you an incredible listener and a deeply supportive partner. But put that same empathetic sponge into a massive crowd, and what happens? You are suddenly bombarded by the chaotic, swirling emotional energy of hundreds of people. The stress of the angry commuter next to you. The frantic, rushed energy of the bartender. The overwhelming, chaotic enthusiasm of the concert goer. It all bleeds directly into your own emotional state. You lose where you end, and other people begin. The desperate desire to escape the crowd isn't just about escaping noise. It's about escaping the suffocating weight of everyone else's psychic baggage. You need to leave simply so you can hear your own thoughts again. And leaving, that's an art form in itself. If you hate crowds, you are likely a true master of the Irish goodbye, slipping out the back door without saying a single word. Why? Because the mere thought of navigating back through the crowd, making forced small talk, and explaining why you're leaving early to 5 different people requires more energy than you have left in your depleted battery. When the battery hits 0, it doesn't slowly fade out. It shuts down immediately. You just have to go. Right now. Unfortunately, the modern world is fundamentally not built for people who need space. We live in an era that aggressively forces proximity. Open-plan offices remove the physical barriers that used to offer psychological safety. Cities are becoming denser and louder. Even our digital spaces feel like crowded rooms where everyone is shouting at once. This relentless push toward hyperconnectivity creates a profound sense of alienation for those who crave quiet. You might find yourself dreading weekends because of the heavy social obligations they bring. You might intentionally go to the grocery store at 10 p.m. just to avoid the rush. You might routinely choose a longer, indirect route to work just to avoid the aggressively crowded subway transfer. People who simply don't understand this will tell you that you're limiting your life. They'll confidently say you're missing out on the human experience. But they have it entirely backward. You aren't missing out on the human experience. You are fiercely protecting your ability to actually process it. Think about the specific environments where you actually thrive. A quiet corner in an independent bookstore on a rainy afternoon. A solitary walk through a dense, quiet forest. A deep, uninterrupted conversation in a dimly lit, empty restaurant. In these sacred spaces, your high-fidelity nervous system isn't a liability. It's your greatest possible asset. Because you aren't overwhelmed by the deafening roar of background noise, you can pick up on the beautiful, subtle nuances of life that everyone else rushes right past. You notice the perfect shift in the afternoon light. You hear the unspoken pain in a friend's voice before they even explain it. You can think deeply, create profoundly, and connect authentically. Your aversion to crowds is not a flaw to be fixed. It is a necessary boundary that protects your unique, highly tuned cognitive architecture. The next time you find yourself at a massive gathering feeling that familiar rising urge to escape, stop judging yourself. Stop telling yourself that you should be having fun or that you need to try harder to fit in. Recognize what is actually happening. Your nervous system is working exactly as it was designed to. It is taking in a staggering amount of highly complex data, and it is firmly telling you that the environment is no longer serving you. It is signaling that your cup is full. Listen to that critical signal. Give yourself the profound permission to leave the loud, chaotic spaces that drain you without an ounce of guilt and without apology. Because the truth is, the most profound and meaningful moments of life are rarely found in the chaotic middle of a screaming crowd. They are found in the quiet, empty spaces in between. They are found in the calm. They are found when the noise finally fades away and you are simply allowed to breathe.